top business stories live from the Sky News City studio. We'll have a look at how the markets have reacted to Israel's overnight attack on Iran. Plus, UK retail sales flatlined during March, according to figures published this morning. Good morning, this is Business Live with me, Ian King. We start today with reaction to Israel's attack on Iran overnight. Let me tell you what's been going on the markets. News from the Middle East sent a barrel of Brent crude, which had been falling every day this week, as high as $90.75 a barrel, or around 4%. Brent crude has, as you can see from the screen, given back all of those gains as the day has gone on. The current price, barrel of Brent crude, is $86.61 a barrel. That is currently down just over half of 1% on the session. Natural gas prices also saw a slight rise. The main contract was up by just under half of 1% at one point. Over on the equity markets, well, the Asia-Pacific region was still open when news of the attack filtered through and a sell-off followed. The biggest faller in the region, as you can see in the top left-hand corner of the screen, was the Nikkei in Tokyo. That fell by nearly 2.75% to suffer its worst one-day fall since September 2022, and that completed the Nikkei's worst weekly decline since June of that year. All of the main indices in the Asia-Pacific region were down overnight. Well, here in Europe, stocks have also fallen this morning. Here's the picture right now. All of the main continental European indices are trading to the downside. Here in London, the FTSE 100 is also in negative territory, currently off by nearly 0.2%, with retailers among the biggest fallers. Well, we'll come back to some more of the details of what's happened in the markets. Just wanted to bring you those updates on what's been going on reaction to the Middle East situation. I'll just show you the FX markets as well, because we've seen some safe haven buying of the Swiss franc and the yen. In terms of sterling and the dollar and the euro, the main currency pairs that we talk about on this programme, very, very little change indeed going on there right now. Well, joining me this morning is Sophie Lunge-Yates. She's the lead equity analyst, of course, at Hargreaves Lansdown. Sophie, good to see you this morning. Very, very muted reaction when you look at things as they were now. I mean, it was very lively overnight, but right now it all feels quite calm.
Hi, good morning. Yes, absolutely. So in terms of really what we've seen is, as much as things are calm, I would still say there's quite a lot of uncertainty, particularly when we look at what global stock markets are doing. Now, the reason that the UK has come off quite as much as it has is we have, if you think about it, we have a great deal of exposure to things like airlines and the industries that surround that, so things like Melrose, Rolls-Royce, the airline like IAG, who of course own British Airways. You know, they've really suffered today because this conflict that we're seeing really has heightened uncertainty, and it obviously affects individual sectors such as the airlines in really quite big ways. But what I would say is the language that's being used around this attack, as well as I'm sure you're aware, is it's a limited attack. So it's not great news, certainly not. But for now, things are looking relatively stable. But of course, I've probably just jinxed it.
Let's hope not, Sophie. I mean, the thing is, in terms of Iranian oil production, I mean, it doesn't look as though Israel was... I mean, the region that they've attacked is where Iranian nuclear installations are. Iran produces about 3 million barrels a day normally. I mean, the suggestion is in the markets it's been up to 4 million barrels a day recently, with a lot of that ending up in China.
Yes, absolutely. So certainly it's a very important region when we look at the oil market and oil production, but it's not the be-all and end-all. So as much as we have seen initially, we saw quite a significant spike in the oil price on the back of all of this. Some of that is starting to pare back. So we're back around the $86, $87 a barrel mark, you know, whereas that had gone up to over 88. So we're already seeing a little bit of anxiety coming out. But one extra pillar to that is, of course, that's the supply anxiety. One part of this is there's a demand anxiety as well around difficult conditions in China as well on the demand side as well.
And, of course, also, we got those blowout US retail sales figures earlier in the week. It doesn't look like the Fed are going to be cutting interest rates anytime soon. And that has kind of rekindled concerns about inflation and what that means for demand for oil, with interest rates at an elevated level for longer.
Absolutely. The US is in a really quite difficult position when you look at that. The inflation figures as well that we're seeing from there. And I know we're hearing this word a lot and we're all probably sick of it, but inflation is incredibly sticky. So basically everything that has been sucked out of the economy and spending has already been done. So what remains is really, really entrenched, and that's difficult to get rid of. So there are interest rate concerns there as well as those retail figures as well coming in better than expected, there's a lot of heat in the economy that still needs to leave.
What about the FX markets? I mean, the main, sterling and the euro and the dollar, very little movement there. I mean, you always get a bit of safe haven buying of things like the Swissy and the yen when you get this sort of geopolitical uncertainty, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. So I think, you've summed it up really well there. We've seen a little bit of a flight to safety, but we haven't seen certainly an upending of those markets at the moment. And at the moment, again, don't want to jinx it, I don't think that we're going to see too much of an upheaval unless we see something really quite dramatic happen on the geopolitical scale over the next couple of days. But for now, relatively stable.
OK, so if you do stay with us, because we're going to be talking about wider market stories in a little while, but thanks for now. Let me talk to you about some of the other main news stories around this morning. And UK retail sales flatlined during March, according to figures published this morning. The Office for National Statistics said retail sales volumes were unchanged from February, but it revised higher the February figure from no growth to growth of 0.1%. The strongest growing category during the month was motor fuel, volumes of which rose in March to reach their highest level since May 2022. And the ONS also said rises were seen in second-hand goods stores, including antiques and auction houses, hardware and furniture stores and clothing. But department store and food store sales volumes slipped during the month. The gaming group, which owns William Hill, said this morning that trading in the first 3 months of the year had been better than expected. 888 Holdings said this was despite sales in the UK and Ireland in its online betting arm falling by 1% year-on-year, due partly to heavier promotional activity a year ago around the Cheltenham Festival. Well, betting and gaming revenue in the group's high street betting stores during the period were down 7% on the same period last year. The French contract catering giant Sodexo said this morning it is looking forward to a big boost to trade from this summer's Paris Olympic Games and Paralympics. The company, which employs 430,000 people across 43 countries worldwide, has been chosen to provide meals for athletes during the Games and said today it expects sales growth this year to be at the top of the 6 to 8% range to which it had been guiding investors. Well, Sodexo, which recently demerged its voucher business Plus, reported an underlying operating profit of €612 million for the 6 months to the end of February. That was up 12% on the same period last year. The French energy technology giant Schneider Electric confirmed this morning it's in talks with the US engineering software company Bentley Systems over a potential strategic transaction. The company, which owns the UK heating control brand Drayton, did not give further details, although Reuters reported last night it could be a possible buyer of the Pennsylvania-based company. Well, Schneider Electric has expanded rapidly in recent years, most notably with its acquisition early last year of the FTSE 100 software company Aviva for just under £10 billion. And Norway's $1.6 trillion sovereign wealth fund today backed calls for Goldman Sachs to split the roles of chairman and chief executive. The Wall Street banking giant has come under pressure from shareholders to separate the roles on the grounds that Goldman's size and complexity makes it too difficult for one person, currently David Solomon, to do both jobs. Well, Norway's sovereign wealth fund, which is one of the world's biggest investors, is currently the 12th largest shareholder in Goldman with a stake of 0.84%, worth $1 billion just now. Well, back to the markets now. Let me talk you through some of the wider issues been going on this morning away from the Middle East. As I said earlier on, stocks have fallen in Europe this morning. Here's the current picture in continental Europe. Talking points in Europe today include the French cosmetics giant L'Oréal. Its shares are currently ahead in Paris by some 4.5% after its quarterly sales came in better than expected. Well, here in London, retailers have been among the biggest percentage fallers this morning in the FTSE. That's, of course, on the lacklustre March retail sales numbers. FTSE off just under 2/3 of 1% right now. In terms of some of those big percentage fallers in the FTSE today, well, I can tell you, JD Sports is currently the biggest faller in the London market, currently off by some 3% or so. Other big fallers to mention: Marks & Spencer off by just over 2.5%. Sainsbury's is off by 1.83%. And B&M European Value, that is off currently as well by some 2%. There are not too many gainers to mention, but you can see one of the main ones on the screen right now. Croda, the specialty chemicals company. Well, that's risen in 4 of the last 5 sessions, and it's up again today, 1.5% to the good. Croda shares up by some 9% during the last fortnight. Outside the FTSE 100, well, Zotefoams, which we had the CEO of that company on the programme a few weeks ago, they're up nearly 5% on a contract win right now. But the hedge fund manager Man Group, you got a shot of that right now, that is currently off by nearly 5.25% on a trading update. Well, with me still is Sophie Lund-Yates from Hargreaves Lansdown. Sophie, very interesting situation in L'Oreal. What was behind that?
Yes, absolutely. So just to put that in context as well, we're talking about how tough the markets are today. So that 4% gain, that reward from investors is really very significant. And essentially what we've seen is that like-for-like sales have come in a lot better than expected. So they're over 9% when they'd been expected to be about 6%. Now, broadly, the L'Oreal story has been really quite robust for quite some time. They are absolutely the world leader in beauty. They are benefiting from a number of different trends, one of those being this massive pivot that we've had towards wellness and beauty and things like that. That's really more entrenched now than it has been. And they are very, very good at targeted acquisitions. They own an enormous stable of brands and they are able to make a lot of money out of them. They're very accretive and they're doing a splendid job would be my analysis on that one. And the market has rewarded them for that today.
Well, it's quite interesting, though. You look at some of the other trading. Unilever are obviously a big player in beauty and cosmetics. So too Estee Lauder, which has gone through quite a rough couple of years, but even their recent numbers have been pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. I would completely agree with that. I think one of the things that the market likes about L'Oreal is this pivot towards the higher end of the wellness market. So we look at that $2.5 billion acquisition of Aesop last year. Things like that, the market's very happy about it. Now, one thing I would say is when you look at the valuation of L'Oreal, I do think we're potentially looking at slightly dangerous territory. It's about 32 times forward earnings is that valuation. You can pick up some tech stocks for less than that. So, there are some questions to answer there, I think.
I wonder whether, I haven't really seen any explanation as to why Croda has been so strong lately, but obviously it is a major supplier to the cosmetics sector, and we have, as you say, had quite a few decent trading updates from that patch of late.
Absolutely, that's precisely what's going on. And we know that the market prefers these kind of pickaxes, these pickaxe options, these suppliers into these favoured industries. They're often seen as slightly more defensive. And obviously there's quite a wide, what we'd call an economic moat in terms of what Croda does. There's not a lot of people that do what they do. So you've got that protection as well. And yeah, the market is clearly very pro-beauty at the moment, which is a nice topic to talk about.
Yeah, decent company, Croda. Now, closer to home, 888 Holdings. What did you make of the numbers there?
Yes, of course, we've had a trading statement from them today. They, of course, own William Hill. And revenues actually come in ever so slightly above expectations, which has been really nice to see. The group is in the middle of quite a significant overhaul. They've got new management, a new strategic plan, new targets, after what's been quite a tumultuous couple of years, really. So the market has rewarded them for that revenue beat today. As you say, they're helped by things like Cheltenham, but there are challenges still to traverse. I think the investor base is still going to set them or hold them up against some very high standards given the troubles that have been going on. And of course, we can't take our eye off the regulatory framework and outlook either, because that's the biggest risk, in my opinion.
The strategy is really curious, isn't it? Because, obviously, this was a pure online gaming business that's bought a traditional high street betting operation. It's so counterintuitive to everything else going on in the sector.
You're absolutely right. And I think, a lot of the rationale there is that there's still a place for some physical betting shops. The problem is when there's oversupply. But I would actually agree, that it has to be very, very carefully executed there, because the costs associated, the numbers of people that are doing physical betting as well is falling. But the argument being that there's a lot of cross-selling potential as well. If you can get them in through the door on a high street, then, you have the potential to funnel them towards your more lucrative online options as well. But of course, it is something that the market, I think, still needs a little bit of convincing that they're doing the right thing there.
Now, the big story overnight from the United States was the trading update from Netflix, their Q1 numbers. The numbers surpassed all expectations, but the share price came off a bit. Why was that? Yeah,
seems a bit harsh, doesn't it? We look at this in some perspective. So the market was expecting Netflix to have added about 5 million subscribers last quarter. They've actually added over 9 million. And yet, as you say, the share price has reacted quite badly. Now, one of the reasons for that is they've announced that they are no longer going to be producing numbers on quarterly membership numbers, so that those subscriber numbers are no longer going to be reported on a quarterly basis. That has spooked the market a little bit, but what I would just say is that that is actually a natural progression. The plan has always been they're going to mushroom the customer base, which they have done, and then provide revenue growth off this large customer base through other ways, so price increases, things like this ad-supported tier. You know, they've talked about sports, they've talked about gaming, and creating these new revenue funnels, if you like, revenue streams. That's the point that we're at now, but we're at an inflection point in this stock, and the market is a little bit nervous.
All right, well, we're at an inflection point in the programme because we're going to go to an ad break. Sophie, lovely to have you with us this morning. Thank you. Well, still to come on Business Live here.
Piece of my soul, you said you would keep it, so where did it go? You broke it to pieces, that piece of my soul. You couldn't resist, are you sorry at all?
A new campaign from the biggest telecoms company in the Netherlands to stop the sending and sharing of intimate images without consent. This is a really, really important story. Don't go away.
They've pushed the protesters further back here. There's around 200 or 300 still remaining.
I'm Dan Whitehead and I'm Sky News' West of England correspondent. This van goes onto the streets of Plymouth 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
These facilities at the moment are a lifesaver. It's all we've got.
From fishing communities to bustling cities, we spend every day reporting from across the region.
I'm going to have nowhere to live for about 3 or 4 months.
They are coming from the epicentre of what is now a global health pandemic. We were seeing and speaking to young women who were selling themselves right on the high street. Before Brexit, these oysters were being exported to the EU, but the trade stopped overnight.
What's your feeling about the future?
Blake, he'll be finished, I don't know.
This is the game changer seat. Look, it even comes with binoculars. Fly Emirates, fly better.
Welcome back. The sending and sharing of intimate images without the consent of those pictured blights the lives of millions of people, and particularly thousands of young people, some of whom have even taken their own lives. Well, now KPN, the leading telecoms provider in the Netherlands, has launched a campaign to highlight the issue and the damage it does. It's produced a hard-hitting music video created by the Dutch pop star Mo, which in just 3 weeks has had 31 million views and 6.5 million plays on Spotify. And a UK version of the song called Piece of Me is about to be released.
Piece of my soul. You said you would keep it, so where did it go? You broke it to pieces. That piece of my soul.
Well, joining me now is Joost Farvenk. He is the Chief Executive of KPN. Joost, very good morning to you. Congratulations on a fantastic campaign. What was the inspiration for it?
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me. The inspiration is that we are, like you said, the largest telecom provider in the Netherlands. We want to grow our business and margins, of course, but we also want to contribute to the Dutch society. And therefore, we started a campaign around a better internet. And internet is not only about fast, secured, green internet, but it's also about a more social internet. And like you also said, life increasingly is taking place online, especially among youngsters. And we think it's a big topic on what's happening online. Usually, telecom providers don't take responsibility for what's happening over their networks. And of course, we are not about the content on what's happening on our network and via our services, but we think it's a very important topic to make a statement. And that's why we started this campaign.
How widespread a problem in the Netherlands is the unauthorised sharing of images?
Yeah, there's a number of 60,000 people being a victim in some kind of a way by shaming via internet. So that's a bit of a big number. And sometimes with dramatic results. It's typically something that's happening among young people. I have children myself, so I think it's an important topic to try to make a statement here and get things moving.
Joost, how did you get Mo, the pop star, on board?
Well, she's a very popular singer-songwriter. We approached her, and well, she's young herself, and she was immediately touched by the topic. She really thought it was a great idea to get involved, and she decided to write a song around this. So we didn't have to encourage her a lot. Our team approached Mo, and she immediately said yes. So that's how we started, and then we built a great video around it.
And I gather she did a lot of research into the topic before she wrote the song.
Yes, that's true. She didn't just start writing a song before she did. I understand she really investigated the topic, the numbers, and what's happening in the Netherlands and all around the world on the topic of naming and shaming on the internet. And
I mean, the response has been absolutely amazing. Did you expect such a take-up?
To be honest, no. I was really surprised by the effect it had in the society, the response of people. I had thousands of messages from all stakeholders. Almost everyone in the Netherlands has seen the video and the song. It stimulates people to talk about the topic with friends, family, or at school. We observed a huge increase online in discussions about cyberbullying. So it really impacted the society, even led to questions raised in the House of Representatives around the process to legislation around the topic. So it had a big impact, and I didn't expect that. I didn't see that one coming.
It is, as you say, it's fantastic. I mean, do you think there will actually be legislation in the Netherlands on the back of this video?
Well, I'm not sure if it's on the back of the video. I mean, it's a statement we do, and we think it's an important topic. I don't think we can really impact people's behavior, but perhaps this is helping a little bit. And as far as I understand, our government is working on legislation around online shaming.
Well, that's great to hear. Now, you've got an English version coming up for release in the UK. What do you hope will be the response here?
Well, it would be great if it would have the same effect as it has in the Netherlands in Britain. It's a topic all around the world, and it's good to wake up younger people on the effect of forwarding content to others. So that is a topic that should be raised in all countries.
But what made you think that this campaign would have legs in the United Kingdom?
Well, I'm not sure if I made a decision there. I think that Mo translated her song in English and that we're launching it now in the UK is Mo's decision first. But on the back of that, I really hope that it will start discussions in the UK as it did here in the Netherlands.
Well, let's hope it did. What's the cost to KPN been of this campaign, Joost?
The cost? Yeah, well, I mean, our spend is in the Netherlands on investments is 1.2 billion. So on the scale of bigger things, this is not that impactful when it comes to cost. So creating a video, encouraging Mo to join us is for us not that big of a cost topic. It's more a decision, do we want to make a step into this area? Because telcos never worried about the content on what's happening on the internet. So that was more the decision. To be honest, I haven't really thought about the costs.
Yeah. So it's a really, really important point you make there. You aren't necessarily responsible for content on the internet. Do you think some of the internet service providers ought to have been taking a lead on this subject rather than leave it to a company like yours?
Well, I think it's a topic for internet service provider to really keep an eye on what's happening. Of course, there's a lot of criminal behavior online, and we have a cooperation there to really discourage that and investigate a lot on criminal behavior. And this, of course, is not directly criminal behavior, but I think it's a good topic if internet service providers like ours, we have an internet service provider ourselves, of course, take the lead in the discussion.
But some of the big social media giants, again, why has this been left to you to do?
Well, I'm not sure it's left to us, but we thought let's make a step and start. Hopefully others will follow.
Now, while we have you, Joost, you mentioned just now you're currently investing something like 1.2 billion euros. I said, what is the intensity of investment like for your business now compared with how it's been over the last few years?
Yeah, usually telcos invest around 50% of their revenues, and we do 24% currently because we're rolling out fiber to the home in the Netherlands. We cover 60% now, and in 2 years' time it will be 80%. We built the best 5G network in the world. Umlaut awarded us a couple of months ago for that. So we're also digitizing the whole company. So that's pretty capital intensive. In a couple of years, we will lower our capex spend because of everything we built. So we are building a beautiful future-proof company in the Netherlands, and it's leading to growth. So that's the good part. Our top line and margins are growing related to that.
Very good. Joost, lovely to talk to you this morning. Congratulations again on a really powerful campaign. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
That's it from me for now. Just to let you know that the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is at a meeting of G7 foreign ministers in Capri in Italy. We are expecting some words from him very shortly on events overnight in the Middle East. And taking you through that after this short break will be my colleague Wilfred Frost. Thanks for joining me this morning. Cheerio.